this week's lesson, we're going to focus on freedom and surrender. And I wanted to go over a few things with you to help you get to a point where you can allow yourself to be a little loose. And that's easier said than done, because most of us have a lifetime of learning shoulds and don'ts. And so this exercise is meant to really help you to loosen up and to get in touch with that part of you that probably hasn't come to the surface in a long time. I have a few points that I wanted to go over. So first of all, we're going to use this exercise to help you break free of your inner critic. Like I said, we're going to let go of shoulds and judgment, yours and others. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, I don't know if you've had the chance yet to read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, but in it she has a quote that says, "Let inspiration lead you wherever it wants to lead you. Keep in mind that for most of history, people just made things, and they didn't make such a big freaking deal out of it." So, her point, I completely agree with, is, ever since the beginning of time, human beings have had the need to create. And it hasn't really been till, modern society, the last, thousands of years, that we started to, judge each other's creations. Because in the beginning, we really created out of necessity, but we also created just for the sake of creating. And there was no judgment. So, one, create for the sake of creating without a goal in mind. Think of children, when they're painting and they're just feeling free. They're immersed in the experience and they love what it feels like. They fall in love with the color. They fall in love with the shapes. And everything they do is bold and it comes from the heart. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for our left brain to judge what we're doing or to even think before we act. We just want to react in that moment, and feel the experience, not so much think about what we're doing. Just to reiterate, so the experience comes first before you can feel joy, right? And like I said, so creativity is an integral part of the human tapestry, right? It just is part of who we are. It's essential, but in our daily lives, we get so bogged down with responsibilities that it's much easier for us to use our left brain, which is the logical brain, and sort of put our right brain offline. But, in reality, we need our right brain engaged in order to feel true joy. And our right brain helps us to process emotions as well, So if we can balance both left and right, and creativity helps us to do that, we have a better chance of expressing ourselves, of having emotional catharsis, and of healing our bodies and our minds. There's a section in Big Magic where Elizabeth refers to this, and she says, "The guardians of high culture will try to convince you that the arts belong only to the chosen few, but they are wrong, and they are also annoying. We are all chosen. We are all makers by design. Even if you grew up watching cartoons in a sugar stupor from dawn to dusk, creativity still lurks within you. Your very body and your very being are perfectly designed to live in collaboration with inspiration, and inspiration is still trying to find you, the same way it hunted down your ancestors." We live in a left brain culture. Our health and joy depend on us, developing and bringing our right brain online. It's simple, really. Just do what feels good, right? It sounds simple. but our critic always gets in the way. And that's what this exercise helps us to do, is to kind of put the critic in the back seat. Bring your awareness to your body, to what you're feeling in the moment, and notice what brings you joy. Try to notice how your heart feels. Do you sense butterflies? Do you sense a sense of freedom? It's not about judging the experience or thinking about if you're doing it right or wrong, because there's no such thing. There's no right or wrong right now in this experience. Whether you're an experienced artist or not, it doesn't matter. This is helping you to get in touch with your deeper sense of self and what brings you joy. And this can either connect you to the things that bring you joy in life, even if you're not an artist, and help you process your emotions. Or if you are an artist, it can improve the quality of your art, because it'll help you to get in touch with your authentic self and create art that's more authentic to you. So creativity is, in my opinion, the language of the soul. And whatever form that takes for you might be different. For the purpose of our exercises, I have certain assignments, but for some people, they may be geared to singing or to playing musical instruments or to sculpting or painting, gardening, whatever it may be for you. Eventually, you can figure that out. I have assigned you some structure so that I can help you to start lubricating the gears, so that you can start thinking, what is it that brings me joy? What makes things tick for me, and what do I look forward to doing tomorrow? So something that I find helpful before I start is I ask myself, what does my soul want to say today? And that's not always a logical thing. It's not a logical answer. It's about creating the space and opportunity to allow your soul to speak through you. And that's through lines and shapes and colors and texture and movement. That's how the soul speaks. And we need to learn the language of the soul and allow it to speak. When you're in this process, during the experiment that's what we're doing. We're experimenting. I want you to have the compassion and the kindness that you would have towards a child. You wouldn't judge a child's experience. You wouldn't judge their process. You would encourage them to have fun and to feel joy. And that's how I want you to approach the exercise. So the critic will step in. We know that. It's just a matter of time before it does. And when it does, I want you to accept it and to acknowledge it and to say it has a purpose, right? It's trying to protect us and to keep us safe. But when it does creep in, I want you to say, yep, I know you're there and I hear you, but I'm doing it anyway. And when fear pops in, I want you to say, yep, I understand your concerns, but I'm doing it anyway. Because we're not dealing with any bear or tiger in the room, right? Our amygdala is primed to look for danger. And it really can't distinguish very well the difference between a tiger that might be attacking us or embarrassment or shame. And so we need to put it at rest and acknowledge its presence, because it has a role to play. So we don't want to sort of deny it and push it away, but we can acknowledge it and say, I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing it anyway. We live in a world where our left brain is very helpful and very needed, right? It gets us through the days, through obligations and responsibilities. But we need a opportunity to create opportunities for our right brain to take center stage. And that's what we're doing here today. We're creating the opportunity for us to really feel what brings us joy and what doesn't. It's just as important to know what doesn't feel good. But that's part of what exploring in this exercise is all about. So I encourage you to explore different things and different modalities and things that might not even come naturally to you at first. But you might find that you try something and you say, "Ooh, I like the way that felt," or, I prefer movement, or I prefer details, or, I like this color over that one, or, whatever it may be. Just pay attention to how it resonates with you. And that's what we're looking for. This is really us experimenting, It's just, a lot of us haven't done something like this in decades or even since we were children. And for some, it might sound childish, but it's not. It's really a necessity for us to have a holistic, fulfilling life. So I'm asking you to leave judgment at the door and to surrender to the moment. And try to visualize. For most of us, we felt a feeling of liberation when we heard the recess bell ring, right? We'd be sitting in our chairs and listening and studying and sitting still and paying attention to the teacher. And as soon as recess bell rang, it was like a sense of freedom. And for many of us, we don't even remember what that feels like. And that's what I want you to try to remember in this week's lesson, is to just surrender to the moment with no judgment.